Here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do? And she says, we just have to do it.
Of course.
The dynamic duo is back in action. Joe Biden, of course, is making his final rounds before entering the grave. Before leaving office. And Kamala Harris is giving her third solo interview over on MSNBC. And of course, the idiocy is truly astounding. So before we jump into these clips, please like and comment so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
So, Mr. President, it was only 2 months ago that you decided to step aside from seeking re-election, putting your country first above any personal ambition, and passing the torch to the vice. It's like having one of the Beatles at the table. And you passed the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris. What have these past 2 months felt like, and are you at peace with your decision?
Well, I am at peace with my decision. Look, when I ran this last term, I said that I saw myself as a transition president. Yeah. Transitioning to a new generation of leadership. Now, I know I only look 40, but I'm 180 years old. I've been around forever. And but what happened was we were having so much success in getting things done that people thought we couldn't get done. Right. I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to pass that torch. But working with Kamala, she is bright, she is tough, she's honorable. And the thing I like about her, and the one thing we share in common, is that we have an optimistic view of the future here. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing we can't do. And there really isn't.
Yeah, there's nothing you can't do except for close the border, fix the economy, and have some world peace, all right? Just the small things. I love the gaslighting going on here. Oh, I was supposed to be a transitional president, right? I was never supposed to have 2 terms, despite the fact that just 2 months ago, you put out a letter to all Democrats saying that you are in this to win it. You are going to be the candidate, and they had better step in line. But then, of course, the soft coup happened, and he was ousted because he was trailing so far behind Donald Trump. And I can't believe he actually said they were having so much success, right? Is that why your popularity was in the toilet? Is that why Trump was ahead of you by 5 points in all the national polling aggregates? I mean, this guy is clearly delusional, but then again, we already knew that. And how is he handling moving off into the sunset? Well, it's easy. He's already doing that, right? He's on the beach for 80% of his time. He's no longer in office meetings, right? Jill is filling in for him in his cabinet meetings. That is what Joe Biden is doing. But listen to the applause from that audience. Joe Biden has actually become more popular since being forced out than he was while actually in office, which of course is why everything went down the way it did. But let's get into some more.
We all agree at this table it's very selfless of you to pass the baton and step aside. There was a perception that perhaps your hand was forced, and some pointed fingers to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who you have a long relationship with and accomplished many things with. Did you feel that your hand was forced, and what is your relationship with Speaker Pelosi now?
My relationship is fine. Look, I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. I didn't sense that. And although the polling, as I said, Biden's polling was different, the fact of the matter is my polling was about, we're always within range of beating this guy. Yeah. And, what I did was, I think there were, it makes sense. There were some folks who would like to see me step aside so they have a chance to move on. I get that. That's just human nature. But that wasn't the reason that I stepped down. I stepped down because I started thinking about it. You know, it's hard to think of, I know you're only 30, but it's hard to think of, it's hard for me to even say how old I am. No, I'm serious. I don't know.
Why is that?
I give my word. It's like, holy God, that can't be right. that just can't be right.
I'm your age, by the way. The number gives me vertigo. No. Yes, it does. I am. I'm your age.
No woman close to me is as old as I am. None.
I'm telling you.
Right now they are.
In this Mr. President, do you think had you stayed in the race, would you have won?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was confident I would beat Trump.
So the big spin coming from the left, of course, is that Joe Biden is like George Washington. He stepped aside. He gave up power willingly, right? He's that good of a person. Never mind all the leaked documents. Never mind all the internal memos. Never mind all of the funds being withheld because everyone recognized he was going to lose to Donald Trump. And that, of course, brings up this second great assertion by Joe Biden. He believes he would have beat Donald Trump. That's the reason you were forced out, dude. It's all over for you. Now, I don't expect him to come on The View and say, oh, I would have lost handily. But you could have said, you know what? It was a close race. It was up in the air. And I figured it was time to step aside. That's the proper spin you would have had. But of course, the dementia and gaslighting have to kick in so we can remember Joe Biden fondly as he rides off into the sunset. Okay? So this is about what you'd expect, right? A big final farewell, a big, huge puff piece over on The View where they're going to, of course, sing his appraisal, even though he did a horrible job and nobody liked him. And that brings us to Kamala Harris, who is finally venturing out on her own like a bird leaving the nest and giving solo interviews to the most friendly of venues, this time over on MSNBC, but it still turned out to be a train wreck. Let's check this out.
Expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Prices are still high.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You said you want to take this on by going after those who engage in price gouging.
Yeah.
But as somebody who supports free markets, who's a capitalist, how do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Because once we get in this zone, people start to get worried and they say, I don't know what she stands for.
So just to be very frank, I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people. And as Attorney General, I saw this happen. In the midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic, we saw it, where those few companies, not the majority, not most, but those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices. Yeah, I'm going to go after them. Yes, I'm going to go after them.
Over the last 4 years, there have been tremendous economic wins, and you've just laid out a big plan. But still, polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts. Donald Trump left us with the worst economy since the Great Depression when you look at, for example, the employment numbers.
It was during COVID, and employment was so high because we shut down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs by most people's estimates, at least 200,000. He lost manufacturing plants. Ask the auto workers how he lost auto plants. We have grown over 20 new auto plants. He has an agenda. Let's just deal with right now going forward, not to mention what happened in the past. He has an agenda that would include making it more difficult for workers to earn overtime, an agenda that would include cutting off access to small business loans for small businesses, an agenda that includes tariffs to the point that the average working person will spend 20% more on everyday necessities.
Communities around the country that have legal immigration, many have said we're at capacity. And many feel like the government has said to them, well, adapt, sit down, be quiet. This is how it is. What would a Harris administration do for those communities who've taken in many, many legal immigrants but are at capacity?
Well, first of all, we do have a broken immigration system, and it needs to be fixed. And if we take a step back, months ago, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress came together with others, proposed a border security bill that would have put 1,500 new border agents on the border to help those hardworking border agents who are there right now working around the clock. would have put more money into stemming the flow of fentanyl, which is killing Americans around our country and devastating communities, would have put more resources into our ability to prosecute transnational criminal organizations, which in my career I've prosecuted. Donald Trump got word of the bill, realized it was going to fix a problem he wanted to run on, and told him to kill the bill, don't put it up for a vote.
All right, I know that was a whole lot of Kamala. It was hard to take, but let's go ahead and run through this. She says that, oh, we have to raise taxes. She can't fathom a situation where she will not be able to raise taxes. Say you have gridlock in the Senate or in the House, etc. But of course, it has to get done. So she's going to do it. And if she can't get it done, oh, print out more money. Is that your plan? Which of course would raise up inflation. And of course, then we talk about what's her plan to fix the current economy. Oh, because it's all price gouging. It has nothing to do with the rapid printing of money, giving out millions upon billions of dollars to other countries and to illegal immigrants in this nation, right? None of that has anything to do with the cost of inflation. Instead, you're going to go after those stores. She's going to get them, right? Those stores with that 1% to 2% profit margin, she's going to get them for raising their prices. And she's done it before in California, right? That, of course, is her big plan, not to increase production or lower taxes on businesses, etc. She's going to go after the price gougers. And also the Trump economy. Oh, under Donald Trump, he actually was losing jobs. He was losing manufacturing. And of course, rightly, the reporter there points out a lot of that was due to COVID, right? His economy was going gangbusters until the entire nation shut down under the direction of Fauci. And of course, is my big complaint about Donald Trump is that he listened to Fauci and shut down the nation. And that allowed blue states to stay shut down for years, thus hurting his candidacy in 2020. And of course, that was the plan all along. But yeah, don't remember how good times were under Donald Trump. Never mind the fact that your wages went up $7,000 a year, and under Kamala Harris, you have to spend an extra $20,000 every year just to have the same cost of living. And then she says, oh, his economic plan, that will raise your costs, his tariffs, 20%. Our costs are already up 20% at least, thanks to the Biden-Harris administration due to inflation. Have you forgot that, lady? And by the way, all this scare talk about inflation, they did that the first time around when Donald Trump enacted all of those tariffs. And guess what? Nothing happened. All that happened was jobs were brought back into America, and we got a whole bunch of money coming in from foreign countries who were paying those tariffs. It's crazy how that works, right? And lastly, she brings up immigration. Remember, she's been border czar for 3.5 years. And for 3 of those years, they basically denied that there was any problems at the border. Oh, we're not being overrun. We don't have 20 million illegals coming into this country. We're not flying them in all over the place, right? We're not doing any of that. And then finally, when the problem got so huge, the video was so evident, everyone was able to see it happening in real time. Then they acknowledge there's a problem. They come up with this bill, which, by the way, would have increased border security, but only for processing, not for actually stopping anybody. And of course, would have allowed by law 2 million illegals into this country every single year. That was the solution that people voted against in the Senate, and rightly so. But here Kamala Harris is trying to pin this on Donald Trump as if he didn't want to solve the problem, and as if he didn't actually solve the problem when he was president already. So of course, this lady is certifiably insane and off her rocker. And it was so bad, as a matter of fact, that even the interviewer there saw that Kamala Harris was basically doing word salads and dodging the questions. Check out her reactions.
But here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do? And she says, we just have to do it. And that's great, and that's a campaign promise. But the issue is, if it means we're just going to borrow again, then what we're doing is we're just never addressing the deficit.
So even MSNBC has to admit here that Kamala Harris has word salad answers and no actual solutions to any of our problems, right? All she wants to do is print more money, spend more, which of course is what Democrats always do. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.